It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Val Collins. Hi, Val. How are you?
Hi, Douglas. How are you? Thank you for talking to me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you with us. So you're an author, and I see a bunch of books. You've got a series out called the Aoife Walsh series.
Exactly. Aoife Walsh third series. That's right.
Okay. I hope I pronounced that right.
You pronounce it perfectly.
I bet you get a lot of strange pronunciations with that, don't you?
I get a lot of people saying they have no idea how to pronounce it, but I actually, in every one of my books, I say in the front how to pronounce it, and I have a recording at the beginning of the books of me pronouncing it. Oh,
okay. Because to look at that in English, you would think it would be Aoife or...
Yeah, people say Aoife.
Or Aoife, yeah.
Aoife, yeah. But that's an incredibly common Irish name. Sometimes it feels like about half the females in their 20s and 30s in Ireland are called Aoife.
Well, it certainly is. It's generous with the vowels. I will say that.
It is.
I think you've got all of them in there except the U, right?
That's very true.
Yeah. So anyways, nice to have you with us. And we're going to be talking about your latest book in this series, which is...
Dying to Tell.
Dying to Tell, okay. Before we get to that, though, just as an icebreaker, when we get a new guest on the show, we like to look at their website before we go on and follow their social media. And I happened to look at your Instagram page just a few minutes ago. The first picture on your Instagram page is the photo of the book cover Spare by Harry. And
I just finished it the day or two ago. Okay,
well, good. Because if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about that book, since it obviously made a lot of noise. What was your opinion of the book?
I thought that half the people who have been criticizing it have never read it. They couldn't have, because the things I've heard people say about it bore no resemblance to the book that I read. I heard people on the radio talking about it, and they replayed some of the comments that people had made. And there was some guy who said it was like Mein Kampf. I mean, it bore no resemblance to Mein Kampf. In no way could it be considered like it. And they were saying what terrible thing he had done. I don't think he was terrible. I think he was actually quite nice to them. And I think there's an awful lot of stuff he could have said that people would have been interested in. He never mentioned it.
So it wasn't real disrespectful to his late grandmother?
No, he talked constantly about how much he respected her, how much he liked her, how he thought they had a very close relationship.
Well, I wonder why people were so nasty about the book then.
I think people are nasty. They're nasty to him, and they're nasty to Meghan as well, because she's not white, or at least she's not fully white. And that doesn't go down well in England, because there are an awful lot of racists there. And the people in the gutter press are like fueled by racists. And they're nasty to him because he has made so many attacks on the press that the press are out to get him.
Well, okay. It makes sense. The only thing I found sort of hypocritical about, not the book specifically, but just about this whole thing with them, is that if one is born into that family and they don't want to be a part of it and they just want to be a private citizen and bow out of royal duties, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Go off, live your life, do what you want to do. You're a free person. But the fact that he is who he is the only reason that book sold millions of copies. If he were Harry the Bin Man, nobody would buy the book.
No, of course they wouldn't. So but if he was... I beg your pardon.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, you're right, of course they wouldn't. But if he was Harry the Bin Man, he wouldn't need to come up with $6 million a year to pay for his security. And I mean, where's he going to get it if he doesn't write books like that?
Well, that's true. But I mean, I think he's sort of, I don't know. I find a slight hypocrisy in it, because it is the fact that he is who he is, that he can command $100 million on Netflix for a series and get paid $7 million to go on Oprah. And yet he's sort of bashing his own identity in a sense.
But it is because of where he came from that he had to leave the country in the first place.
Well, okay.
Like if he was Harry the Bin Man, he could have stayed in his country. Nobody would have been driving him out.
I suppose that's true. Yeah, yeah. I guess different ways to look at it. Well, good. I'm glad I asked because you've helped me to see it from a different perspective. Because I've certainly...
Well, I mean, I could be totally wrong. That's just what I feel.
Well, no, that's your opinion, and I value that. And I think that everyone has a right to it. Unfortunately, I haven't heard your opinion yet. You're the first one because everybody else I've been hearing say, oh, it's trash, it's awful, it's, I've just been hearing that.
Well, I heard a guy in the radio when I was driving home there a couple of weeks ago. There was a panel of people talking about the book, and the guy who was chairing the panel, he was saying, well, I think people are being too harsh about it. And the other guy was saying, they are not. This is appalling that he could do this to his family. And the other guy said, yes, but when I read it, I thought. And the other guy says, well, I haven't actually read the book. And I thought, well, why are you on a panel talking about it then?
Yeah, that's not fair. I think if one is on a panel for a book, the least they can do is read it.
Exactly.
So,
especially if you're going to flag it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Okay, well, thank you for that. Let's pivot over to your book, which is why you're here now. And this series, this is number 5?
5.
Okay.
That's right. 5.
So when did book 1 come out? How long has this series been going?
Book 1 came out in 2018.
So you're writing about one a year?
Yeah, well, I took a little bit longer than a year between the first and the second, but I've written one a year ever since.
Okay. Why don't you give us just a little synopsis of the overall series, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so the main character in the series is Aoife, and the series, what makes it a series is the link. Aoife is the link between the series, because every mystery in the book is a standalone mystery, and it's at the end of the book it's been solved. It's never mentioned again. So what continues in the book is Aoife's personal life. So the book starts off when Aoife is 23 and she's happily married and pregnant with her first child. And she gets a job in an office in Dublin, and her second day in the office, she finds her boss hanging from the ceiling. So she goes away and has her baby, and when she returns, the police have finished their investigation and they've decided that her boss was murdered. And Aoife trained as a journalist, but getting into journalism in Ireland is very difficult, so she'd given up. But now that she has a baby, she wants to be more in control of her schedule, and she thinks that freelance journalism is the way to do it. So she decides this is her chance because she found the body, so she's a very unique perspective on this murder, and she's working with people who've known the victim for years. So she starts talking to them without telling them what she's doing, and she figures she'll find out all this information and then she'll write up her story and this will make her name. But of course, somebody figures out what she's doing and people try to kill her. Now, at the same time, she's happily married, or so she thinks at this stage. But as people are trying to kill her and her life is getting more and more complicated, her husband doesn't seem to care at all. So then she begins to wonder who she married to. So the whole series is kind of her relationships, because that goes on over more than one book.
What genre would you put this series in? Mystery?
No, they're thrillers.
Thrillers.
They're thrillers because at the end, there's very much a big tense scene at the end of all of them where something goes really wrong and then it all gets sorted. It's not just a mystery, but there is a mystery in it. Okay.
What sparked this idea? Was this something that happened to you?
No. That I found someone hanging? Good heavens, no. My work office was never that exciting. No, it started because I was made redundant. So I was working in this job where I was working ridiculous hours, and all of a sudden I had all this time to myself. So I decided, I thought about writing when I was a kid. I used to write when I was a kid. So I thought about writing again. So I thought, okay, this is my chance. So I had worked all my life in offices, or at least all my working life in offices. So I decided to start there. And because I'm not a planner, I didn't really have anything in mind. I just started writing the first scene where several people who work in the office are on their way to the office. And then I don't think I'd even planned for her to find the body hanging. She just did, and it just developed from there. And I never planned it to be a series either. It just happened to turn into one.
Right on your book cover, it says best-selling author. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. That started on my second book. From my second book on, I've managed to get them to number 1 on Amazon.
Oh, fantastic.
I got my first one to number one in Amazon as well, but it was in the free store. The others were sold.
Are you in Ireland now?
I'm in Ireland always, yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure because it says a native of Ireland, but people do move around, so.
No, I haven't moved. I have lived all my life here. I don't think I've ever been out of the country for longer than 4 weeks at a time.
So it's about, 8 o'clock at night there?
It is indeed.
Okay. All right. So this book, how long has it been out? Dying to Tell?
It isn't out. It's coming out on the last day in February.
Okay. So just 10 days or so? Yeah.
Thereabouts, yeah.
How many books do you anticipate will be in this series?
I have never anticipated that there'd be any books in the series. It's just usually when I finish the book, I get an idea for another book, and so I write another book. I'm planning not to write a book next year in that series. I'm thinking of starting a new book or series, depending how it works out, about a time-traveling detective.
Okay. Does your publisher give you any sort of, oh yeah, we need another one for this series, or are they doing any of that?
I'm entirely free. Nobody cares what I do.
Okay. Because I know from past interviews with other authors that publishers like series. Particularly if the first or the second book did well, they always want a follow-up. So they could prod the authors to keep writing in the same series.
I've heard people say that, but that's obviously is not an issue I've ever had.
Well, that's good. Then you are free to write. Will the next series that you might write be in this same sort of genre, or are you going to go off and do something?
Well, no, it's going to be a time-traveling thriller. So it's going to, I plan for the first book to be set around 1900, 1910.
Oh, all right.
And I mean, it might be a once-off. I don't know. I've never written anything but a series, so I'm inclined to assume that it will turn into a series, but maybe it won't.
Okay, well, we'll look for that. Anything else you want to bring up about the book series or your life in general?
About my book series. Well, my book that's coming out in a few days' time, that is the story of two people called Matt and Nicole. And Matt and Nicole go on their honeymoon. And they're lying on a beach in Italy, and Nicole falls asleep. And when she wakes up, Matt has disappeared, and she never sees him again. Oh. So then Aoife gets involved in trying to figure out what happened to him. And then Aoife's life kind of gets mixed up in the whole thing, and it all turns out into a big mess, which is sorted out at the end.
Is she kind of an unwilling sort of Sherlock Holmes?
No, not really. What she is a freelance journalist. Well, she's a part-time freelance journalist because she's not making any money out of it. She's working in offices a lot of the time. In some of her books, she has temp jobs in an office, and sometimes the trouble comes from there. But generally what happens in this particular book is she has got a commission to write an article on missing people. So she goes to, she's heard of Nicole, obviously, because she was all over the papers when her husband disappeared a year earlier. So she decides to write an article on Nicole. And then that's when they discover that he's not in the middle of her investigation. His body turns up. So it turns into a murder investigation.
So she sort of stumbles into one disaster after another.
Well, in the first book, what happened was that, as I said, she found her boss hanging from the ceiling. So in the second book, the first book mentions that her husband, Jason, that his father had walked out in the family when he was a very young child. And I was just doing a last read through of my first book when it occurred to me, wouldn't that be a good idea for a second book? So that book is about his father turns up 15 years after he disappeared, his dead body, obviously, and he was murdered 15 years earlier. And Aoife's mother-in-law is the obvious suspect. So that's how she gets involved in that, because she's trying to prove that her mother-in-law didn't murder anyone. So then in the third book, The Silent Speak, an entire family are murdered in their own home. And two of the members of that family were members of Aoife's book club. So that's how Aoife gets involved in that one. And then in the last one, the fourth one, there were four people were walking on the Cliffs of Moher. 4 young people were walking on the Cliffs of Moher, and one of the young men fell off, and his friends said that it was an accident, but a stranger who witnessed the whole thing insisted that it was murder, and that this man called Ben had thrown his friend off the cliff. Now, Ben's family were wealthy, so they hired all sorts of people to prove that their son was innocent. And one of the crowd that they hired was a legal firm that Aoife's friend works for. So Aoife's friend got Aoife involved in it.
Well, I think we better leave it at that. We don't want to spoil it for people who want to go out and buy the books. We do have to wind this down, Val. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you give out your website, please?
Sure. My website is valcollinsbooks.com.
valcollinsbooks.com. Okay. Well, best of luck with the book launch. You said in about 10 days, and we'll keep an eye out for any new books that are coming out by you. And best of luck.
Thank you very much for talking to me, Douglas.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on The Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Douglas Coleman's Don't Do a Podcast is a dryly humorous rant about Douglas's pet peeve, the unrelenting torrent of podcasts hitting the web on a constant basis. As technology has put podcasting within the reach of anyone, many wholly unqualified people have taken the plunge. This witty polemic tries to persuade them from broadcasting their drivel using Douglas's brand of sarcastic humor. Now on Amazon, only 99 cents.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
Hey, this is Ray Powers. Don't touch anything. You've got it right where you need it. Tuned in to The Douglas Coleman Show. You heard me.
Okay, please welcome to The Douglas Coleman Show, Debbie Quigley. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you with us. And
thanks for having me.
You are in Peterborough, Ontario?
I'm from Peterborough, Ontario, but I currently reside in a small hamlet, and it's called Cohill, Ontario.
What's a hamlet?
It's it's smaller than a town.
Okay, because when you said hamlet, I thought of Shakespeare.
It's a very small, quaint little place surrounded with wildlife, and it's very peaceful and serene. Lots of lakes.
Like a village?
Smaller than a village.
Smaller than a village. Okay. I don't
Smaller
think
than a village.
I don't think we use that term in the United States. I don't know. I'd never heard it.
Well, it's something new for you.
There you go. Okay. So what's the population of your hamlet?
Oh, I'm not exactly sure, but it's very small.
Like
it's really it's a cottage community. It's cottage country.
Like 1,000 people, maybe 500 people.
Oh, less than that.
Oh well, you're pretty much on your own then.
Yeah, yes, that's why the wildlife are free to wander in my backyard during the day, and I can view them.
Well, it sounds very lovely, and
it is.
Your bio says that you love to grow vegetables.
Yes, I do.
What kind of vegetables do you grow?
Oh, I grow peppers, and I grow broccoli, and I grow tomatoes. The list goes on. I love to grow my own food, my own vegetables, and watch them grow. And I also love flowers.
Your growing season is fairly short there, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But you can start your vegetables ahead to give them a good start before you plant them outside for the summer to grow.
Do you have a greenhouse?
No, I don't. But that's my future goal, my future dream.
Because that would substantially increase your growing season, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you. Nice to have you with us. You're here to talk about your book, which is called Wounded Hearts, Take a Chance. And how many books have you published at this point?
This is my second one. The first one is Wind Whispers. It's a poetry anthology. And this is my second one. And I just finished writing a third one, but not published yet.
Okay. Are both of these poetries?
Yes, my poetry books are very unique, I'll say. My poetry, each one is a story. And it's just like Wounded Hearts Take a Chance. What it is a poetic journey of a woman that has shut down her heart to loving again. And it is her journey of opening up her heart once again and meeting someone, and as the story progresses, falling in love again and the passion. And we all know of the someone, or we've been the someone that's had a wounded heart. And this little book, given to someone to give them hope, to open their heart again, that they will meet that special person that will open their heart.
Okay, why is this poetry, or called poetry, as opposed to a novel, if it's just one story?
Because it's small. Like all my poems are, they're small, but they tell a story. Like each one is unique.
Each one is unique, but they're connected.
Yes, and it just flows. I call them poetic journeys.
Well, that is kind of unique. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Does anybody else write like that you know of?
Not that I know of. It's just something that I started to do, and my start was, I'm a retired healthcare worker, and I started writing for the elderly, because when I would go to the cottage and I would see the wildlife and the beauty, I would write things and take it back to the long-term care and read it for the seniors so they could experience the joy and see it in their mind, the beauty that I saw. So it was taking them somewhere else.
Okay.
And that was my start. And I've continued to write since. Just sharing lessons of life and hope and love and stories of grief, stories of loved ones, many different things. This one was my first one that was romantic, a romantic path book that didn't include all kinds of other things in it.
Did the elderly people that read your poems, or you read them to them, did they enjoy them?
Yes, they did. And that's what got me writing, and that's what got me publishing my first book. And I'm saying, go ahead, Debbie, and share this. Like, share your writings.
Are you self-published?
So I decided to do that.
I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Are you self-published, or do you have a publisher?
For Wounded Hearts Take a Chance, Endless Skies, Edward Willis was a tremendous help in helping me publish Wounded Hearts Take a Chance. And with Wind Whispers, I started to write poetry and go into poetry contests years ago for a site that was called Spiritual Writers Network. And I won in the contest, and they were published in different books through Spiritual Writers Network. And that woman that ran the site, she helped me publish Wind Whispers Poetry Anthology, and she's American. And I thank her for her friendship and for helping me with that book.
Did you want to read a short one, just to give people an idea? I don't want to put you on the spot, but...
Well, what I'm going to suggest is that I think in the States you also have Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a Facebook page, and it's called Wounded Hearts Take a Chance. And there is bonus poetry on that page for people to read. And I'd like people to read it themselves, because I think you get more out of it than me reading you something.
Okay. So you don't want to read one on the show for the interview?
No, kind of nervous.
Oh, you don't have to be nervous. But that's okay. That's all right. I know I just sort of threw that out at you. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Give us a little bit. You told us a little bit about Wounded Hearts. Tell us a little about the other one, the first one.
The first one is called Wind Whispers. It's a poetry anthology. Included in it is many life lessons. It's about grief. It's about love. It's about hope. It covers many areas that people go through in life. And it's my lessons that I've learned. And it gives people, like I said, it gives them hope. I call them whispers. I call it my whispering art.
Is this from people that have passed away, or the feelings that you would
get?
No,
it's people that it's pieces of my life. It's pieces of my heart. It's in that is also the beauty of nature. So it's picturesque, so people can see it in their mind and enjoy it. It's a great book of many things. It's about giving homage to people that have suffered with depression, different dedications to different people.
I'm looking at the cover of Wounded Hearts, looking at the photo. Wounded Hearts, Take a Chance. Yes. Who is the man in the middle of the heart? Is that anybody you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought maybe that was your long-lost love or somebody in there.
No, it is not.
Okay.
It's just a cover design that I thought told the story, because all of us have this heart, and sometimes there's a piece missing in our hearts. And for a person that's alone or that has closed down their heart to loving again because they had their heart broken, that piece is missing. That cover just showed that opening the heart again and letting someone into their life.
Do you think there are people running around in this world who have never experienced a broken heart?
No, I don't think there is. And like I said, whether you're young or whether you're old, like even for somebody that was older and elder that read this book, it would take them back to that time that they fell in love, that they had that journey of just, seeing that person and just the passion, the time spent. Like I said, it's something for all ages, because we all have had our hearts broken at some time, or we all know the person that has had their heart broken. And some people have stayed away from loving again because of it. And that opens up for them to read something like this, for them to take a chance, because they'll feel the passion again. It'll warm their heart.
Anything else you want to add? I was going to ask you if you have a website.
I don't have a website, but like I said, I am on Facebook.
Okay. What is your Facebook handle? Just your name? Debbie Quigley?
My name is Debbie Quigley.
Okay.
And like I said, Wounded Hearts Take a Chance also has a Facebook page. And there's also some bonus poetry that's on that site for people to read. It also mentions about my fabulous publisher of this book, Endless Sky Publishing, Edward Willett, and a picture of my beautiful yard with where I get my inspiration to write also about nature for people to see.
Oh, I'll have to take a look. I'll go on Facebook.
And a little bit, just about me as a person.
Is the book out now?
Yes, it is. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's also in ebook on Amazon and on many other sites. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Endless Sky Books also. So, no, it comes in many sites, digital sites, plus your print versions on Barnes & Noble and Amazon and Endless Sky.
Okay. How long has the book been out?
I do believe it was the 27th of January. It's very new.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing. And we will take a look at your Facebook site. I want to read this now. You've got me intrigued. So I'm going to go on there now.
Oh, I'm glad. That was my... I do believe that for a person to read something themselves, they get more out of it than sometimes the person reading it to them. And the poems that I put on there, they're not part of Wounded Hearts Take a Chance, but they are some of my other pieces, just so people know that I don't always write about love. I write about many, many things.
Well, again, thank you for coming on the show. It was nice to meet you, nice talking to you, and best of luck with your book.
It's been very nice talking to you. I have been very nervous, but I thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care.